Hi, hello. Today we are going to be talking about the 7-star Primarina raid and what to expect and how we can counter it. If you're new here, my name is Steve and I build raid Pokemon that work well and synergize with each other. Before we get to my 6 counters, let's talk about what Primarina can even do. Primarina will be a Fairy Terra type, which means that its Fairy type attacks will get a stab boost and a Terra boost to its damage, meaning that resisting Fairy is a must here. Because Terra Pokemon also keep their original stab, this means that Primarina's Water-type moves will still hurt too. Speaking of Water-type moves, Primarina has a really unique ability called Liquid Voice. This changes sound-based moves into water moves. So even if it's a Fairy sound-based move, Primarina's ability will change that to a water move. Luckily for us, none of the sound-based moves that Primarina learns are stronger than any of its water-based moves that it can already learn, like Hydro Pump. It's probably safe to say that we'll see a water-type Hyper Voice, which is normally a normal-type move, but this would do the same damage as something like Sparkling Aria, which is Primarina's signature move. I'd suspect we would see Primarina open with a Calm Mind, and then a Hyper Voice, or open with a Rain Dance and then a Hyper Voice before the raid actually starts. In short, it's not a very threatening ability because Primarina already has access to a lot of water-type moves without needing to change sound-type moves into water. Since Fairy is weak to both Steel and Poison, we can start there. Primarina does get access to both Psychic and Stored Power, making any Poison-type Pokemon harder to build for. Primarina has no coverage for any Steel types. This means that we're going to lean heavily on Steel-type Pokemon this time around. I calculated all of their moves against our 6 Pokemon I'm showing today, but the main moves I expect Primarina to have would be Moonblast, Hyper Voice, Sparkling Aria, Psychic, Shadow Ball, and Energy Ball. None of those are super effective against Steel. On status-type moves that Primarina can learn, we could expect both Calm Mind and Amnesia. Both of these boost Primarina's special defense. We can also expect Rain Dance, Misty Terrain. Primarina gets access to both Light Screen and Reflect, although we just saw that with Meganium, so I don't know if we'll see that twice in a row. And then Primarina also gets access to moves like Charm and Baby Doll Eyes. Primarina is undoubtedly going to be a special attacker here, and Primarina's special defense is much higher than its physical defense. While I normally rely on special attackers in combination with Acid Spray, which you would think would sound perfect here because Fairy is weak to poison, Primarina has 2 ways to boost its already good special defense stat, but it has no way to boost its defense stat. So we're going to go with physical type Pokemon because they will do more damage naturally, but also if Primarina decides to boost its special defense, we can just ignore that because we are physical attackers. It also helps that a lot of Steel-type Pokemon are already physical anyways, so that's nice. Speaking of Steel types, let's talk about the best Steel-type attacker in the entire series, Zacian. There is not a single damage-dealing Pokemon that really competes with Zacian's stats and its raw power. On top of that, Zacian has really good support for your teammates with both Snarl and Howl. Zacian should be very straightforward to play. You will open up with Snarl to lower Primarina's special attack. That helps out your entire team, and it also helps you build Terra. After what I assume will be a pretty early stat reset, or if Shield goes up, you can then use Howl to boost your attack and your team's attacks, and then you can switch to Behemoth Blade to do big damage. Really basic EVs on Zacian with 252 HP, 252 attack. And I will say Zacian and any other Pokemon coming to this raid will do much, much better behind a light screen. But your responsibility as a Zacian player is just to make sure that you PP max out your Iron Head, so when it turns into Behemoth Blade, you will get 8 Behemoth Blades instead of 5 for this fight. If you're running out of Behemoth Blade, it's probably because you're not using Howl or Snarl enough in between this fight. So please take advantage of that. You're probably saying, I don't have access to a Zacian, and I understand. So, if you don't have access to a Zacian, that's okay. You can actually build Copperajah. Both of these Pokemon are going to fill a very similar role, which is just simply attacking. Copperajah also gets access to Snarl, so you're going to open with Snarl to build your Terra before switching over to Heavy Slam. Copperajah can also taunt to stop potential charms or Baby Doll Eyes or Rain Dances. You also get access to Rock Smash, which is there to fish for defense drops. If you have enough Snarl support on the team, then you can lean into Rock Smash to build your Terra instead of Snarl. But regardless, I think everyone who has access to Snarl should be opening with Snarl, at least on turn 1, just for basic setup. Copperajah does have one advantage over Zacian, which is it can get its health back with Shell Bell. Unfortunately, Zacian has to hold her Rusted Sword in order for her stats to change and to have access to Behemoth Blade. For Copperajah, we're just going to do 252 HP, 100 special defense, and then the rest in attack. And if Zacian uses Howl, Copperajah will be able to do more damage. Speaking of more damage, now that we have our 2 attackers out of the way, let's talk about how we can boost our team's damage even more. That Pokemon that can do that is Berserker. Like Primarina, Berserker has a very unique ability called Steely Spirits. This ability will boost the damage of Steel-type moves for you and your teammates anytime they use a Steel-type move. This is why all our Pokemon in this video have Steel-type attacks. It's because of Berserker. Berserker can also provide support with Screech, meaning that you and your teammates will do more damage by lowering the defense stat of Primarina. Again, like I said earlier, Primarina has no way of boosting its defense stat. It has 2 ways of boosting its special defense. We're also going to use the Heat Rock, and we're going to put Sunny Day on Berserker. The reason for that is because Steel types will resist pretty much every single move Primarina has except their Water type moves, which means Primarina will rely on its Water type moves to do the most damage to us. If we just set Sun, we will reduce the damage for our entire team and their Water type moves for 8 turns with Heat Rock. The small downside here is there is a small chance that Primarina can learn Weather Ball. And Weather Ball would be a fire type in the Sun, and all our Pokemon are Steel, so that would be the only reason not to use Sunny Day. Zacian's Howl can boost Berserker's damage, so the combo of Howl boosting Berserker and Steely Spirits boosting Behemoth Blade and other Steel-type moves pair really well in this fight. Like I said at the beginning, I try to build Pokemon that synergize together. Berserker does have a downside, which is its special defense. Its special defense isn't really good, and Primarina is a special attacker. So to fix that, we're going to do 252 HP, 224 in special defense, and then the rest in attack. Since we're focused on Sunny Day and Screech support, we're pretty much there so other Pokemon can do big damage while taking advantage of Steely Spirits. We don't need Berserker to hit super hard. Berserker just existing with Steely Spirits will help the entire team. And also, just a side note, Steely Spirits can stack, so you would do more damage if there were 2 Berserkers instead of 1 Berserker. The ability does stack. Before we get to our next Pokemon, if you could just take a quick second just to make sure that you're subscribed, that would be awesome. I spend a full day on calculations, on the graphics that go on Instagram, recording and editing this video. I do all of this myself. If you like 7-star raids, if you like my videos, if you can somehow interact with this video, hit the like button, comment below which build you like, that would super help me out, and I'd appreciate that. Our next Pokemon is going to be Tinkaton. Tinkaton, like the first 3 Pokemon, also takes advantage of Steely Spirits, but has a move I mentioned earlier, which is Light Screen. Light Clay with Light Screen will make that last 8 turns. We know Primarina is going to be a special attacker, so that's a no-brainer that Light Screen should be used in this raid. And if you're playing Tinkaton, you're going to open up with Light Screen. You also have Skitter Smack, which is pretty much a bug version of Snarl. You can use this to build Terra. Also probably just use this after you set up your Light Screen. And then your main attack here is going to be Gigaton Hammer, which is, it's a really powerful Steel-type move, but the downfall to this is you can't use it twice in a row. But if you have 2 Tinkatons on your team, you can use Helping Hand to boost your teammates' Gigaton Hammer, and then when they're done Gigaton Hammering you, they can use Helping Hand to boost your Gigaton Hammer, so you can have this really neat back and forth of constantly boosted Gigaton Hammers, on top of probably what will be a Steely Spirit boost. This makes up for Tinkaton's lower attack stat with this combination here. Before you do this Helping Hand Gigaton Hammer back and forth, just make sure your Light Screen is up. Make sure there's a couple Skitter Smacks. If you don't have anyone to Helping Hand, you can just Skitter Smack in between Gigaton Hammer. But also, if you have a Zacian next to you, definitely Helping Hand Zacian's Behemoth Blade in between your Gigaton Hammer. There's a lot of combinations here. If you see the graphic, I always recommend 2 extra moves. That's just if you have a certain play style or you want to think outside the box. The reason I put 6 moves on my graphic is because sometimes you don't need a move. Sometimes we might not need Taunt at all, for example, or we might not need Sunny Day at all. But I like to give players an option to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't think of that. Maybe I'll consider this, and to inspire people to maybe customize their builds or to go with different Pokemon that I didn't recommend. In this case, you'll see that Skill Swap is on the graphic. Tinkaton does get access to Skill Swap, and we can use that to remove Liquid Voice. If Primarina is going to spam Hyper Voice, which would be normally a normal type move, but with Liquid Voice would be a water type move, that would still do neutral damage to all our Steel Pokemon. If we were to remove Liquid Voice, Hyper Voice would change back to normal, and Steel type Pokemon resist normal type moves. But that's very dependent on if it's going to spam Hyper Voice. But again, I just want to put that option out there of we could remove the ability, and that could be very beneficial. But it could be a situation where Primarina only uses Hyper Voice on turn 0 and we don't get to see it again. I would assume, though, overall, it might not make a huge difference because Primarina should still have Sparkling Aria, which does the same damage as Hyper Voice. But it, again, a thing to consider. EVs are weird here when you look at it, but I did optimize them. So you're going to do 180 HP, 176 attack, and then 152 special defense. Again, very weird. But if you were to go to my Twitch VOD, I spend probably way too long optimizing these EVs for Tinkaton. We now have 2 non-Steel Pokemon with the Steel Terra type. And this is the one I'm probably the most excited about, which is Toxtricity. It's very possible that Primarina does open with Misty Terrain, which does prevent status conditions, but once that's gone, we can get a guaranteed 100% paralysis, even with Shield up, by using Nuzzle. We have Snarl support on Toxtricity, of course, but Toxtricity also gets access to a move called Throat Chop. What Throat Chop will do is it will shut down any sound-based moves for 2 turns. This would shut down Hyper Voice. This would shut down Sparkling Aria. And since Toxtricity does outspeed here, if it planned to do Sparkling Aria and we Throat Chopped, it then loses its turn completely and you take no damage. In fact, your whole team would take no damage if it's trying to Sparkling Aria or Hyper Voice your other team. It's literally shutting down all sound-based moves for 2 turns. So you can have a really good combo of Throat Chop, Terra Blast, Throat Chop, Terra Blast, Throat Chop, Nuzzle. If you think that's cool, Toxtricity goes even deeper. Toxtricity's ability is Punk Rock, which reduces the damage of sound-based moves. It's super neat. I think most people know the first half of Punk Rock, which will boost the damage of sound-based moves, but we'll also have the damage of sound-based moves. Because Toxtricity has nothing but attacks, Snarl, Nuzzle, Throat Chop, Terra Blast, we're going to put an Assault Vest on it to boost our special defense because we know Primarina will be a special attacker. You'll also see on the graphic that Brick Break is here. It is possible that Primarina learns screens, so that is why Brick Break is an option on some of these graphics. You know, if Primarina doesn't have any screens, then we don't need Brick Break. And I don't expect Primarina to have screens since we just saw screens with Meganium. I do want to point out that none of our Pokemon here have Life Dew, and Pokemon like Zacian can't hold the Shell Bell. If you are going to play any of these support Pokemon or any of these all-arounders that I've built, keep in mind you're in charge of heal duty. Copperajah and Zacian should be focusing on snarling and focusing on doing big damage. So you don't want them to stop to heal. Everyone is using Snarl. You'll have to heal less because you'll be taking less damage. The synergy is there, but I do feel like sometimes when I'm playing with randoms, I never, ever see them heal cheer. I don't even know if they know that they could heal cheer or where that button is, but I do label these Pokemon attack, all-arounder, support. So support being the first Pokemon that should be relying on heal cheer. All-arounders should maybe heal cheer if support is struggling. If the attack Pokemon are heal cheering, then something is going very terribly wrong with your support Pokemon. So that's how I think about it in my head. Our last Pokemon is going to be Clodsire. This was actually going to be an Empoleon build, but after comparing Clodsire and Empoleon, they do very similar things. Clodsire gets access to both Heavy Slam and Iron Head, And Empoleon doesn't get access to either, even though it learns Swords Dance. So Clodsire just by default pairs better with Screech and Howl support. Clodsire and Empoleon both get access to Mist, which is why I was looking at both of them. But the lack of physical moves on Empoleon, which I do get its special attack is a little bit higher, just makes me prefer Clodsire over it because, like I said, with the possibility of Calm Mind or Amnesia, we just want to avoid going that route because that's one less thing we have to manage if it does go an Amnesia route, that we just don't have to worry about its special defense because all our Pokemon up to this point have been physical. Because all our Pokemon are physical, though, we will have to worry about Baby Doll Eyes and Charm. Those are the things we do have to worry about. And we have one way to stop them, which we talked about earlier, which was Taunt. We now have another way to stop them, which is Mist. Unlike Taunt, Mist can be used when the Raid Shield goes up. So Mist will last for 5 turns, and that will prevent our stats from changing from moves like Baby Doll Eyes or Charm. We can also use Mud Slap on Clodsire to build Terra, but also to reduce the accuracy of Primarina. This helps out everyone on the team. And then we can use Heavy Slam for big damage. Heavy Slam takes advantage of Steely Spirits, takes advantage of Screech, takes advantage of Howl. And I did think it was important to have both Taunt and Mist for worst case scenarios, but we don't have to worry about Amnesia at all, even if it decides to go to +6 right away because we're all physical. And if it decides to use Calm Mind a couple times, we can control that with Snarl, and again, not worry about the special defense stat. Clodsire can go the Acid Spray route, and I usually build Clodsire that way, but all the synergy I've talked about up to this point makes more sense to go with a physical Clodsire. 252 HP, 180 special defense, the rest in attack. You'll notice that Clodsire has Amnesia. Amnesia is there in case of Blizzard or Psychic spam. We'll only have to use Amnesia once. That should be enough of a damage reduction to let us build to Terra. And once we go to Steel-type Terra, we don't have to worry about Blizzard or Psychic at all. There is all 6 Pokemon. I hope you like them. I hope your partner likes them. I hope your grandma likes them. I hope your cat likes them. If you need any help or you want to play with actual real people and not random Annihilate users that will come to this raid, you can either join our Discord, where we have a bunch of people that are very good at raids and love playing and love grinding out, especially now that Herba Mystica seems to be in 7-star raids. Or you can come over directly to Twitch. I stream all the raids. I help as many people as I can get through the raids. I'll be streaming on Twitch on Thursday night to help as many people as I can win. So thank you for watching. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. Shout out to Grandma. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.